How are people around the world dealing with the corona situation? My name is Barbara H. Schmitt, and I have interviewed people from more than 20 countries around the world in a 5 hours Insta Live. So here you can see the result from the interview. Enjoy! Hello, Thandi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too. Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been really fascinating listening to everyone's story. So really happy to take part. So the situation at the moment in South Africa, we've just recorded 1,000, just over 1,500 infections, and we've had 7 reported deaths. So still in comparison, very low. If you look at many other countries. And we are on day 8 of our lockdown. So I think one of the sort of first things to say is that we've all been really impressed with the reaction that our government has had to when the infection started. People feel that they've taken really quick action. A lot of people feel that, well, some say that the restrictions are very harsh. We've had a lot of international opinion on some of our restrictions and the regulations. But the sense here is that, the action's been quick, it's necessary, and we really are hoping that we start seeing the results from the restrictions.
What restrictions do you have?
So as I said, we on day 8 of our lockdown. It's a 21-day lockdown. So we still have 2 weeks to go. But the lockdown is very restrictive. So no leaving your homes, no jogging, no dog walking. That was a big thing for a lot of your sort of middle to upper class kind of people wanting to know if they can take their dogs for a walk. It was quite funny. Only essential services are allowed to operate. If you are part of an essential service, you have to carry a permit explaining where you work and what you do. If you're not a part of an essential service, you stay at home. You can only leave to go get groceries or go get food. If you need medical services or need the bank or something like that. And that's being enforced by police and the military as well. So the restrictions are quite harsh. But what makes it really interesting here is the very big difference between the sort of middle class, wealthy class, and the sort of informal settlements, your so-called township areas, your lower to very poor income households, and I think the experiences in that very wide gap is very different. So you talk to someone like me who's very comfortable at home. I've got my access to be able to work remotely, and then you talk to someone who has to share a very small household in an informal settlement with 7 other people, where you've got a 3 by 3 meter type of structure, and the situations is very different. And that we see where there's been quite a lot of tension between citizens and police and the military. We've already had I think the last number was 3, but I think it's just increased in the last day or two. People who have died at the hands of police and military, in them trying to control movement and trying to limit that. So you're seeing clashes, you're seeing conflict there. And I think they're trying to sort of put measures in place to help that. But, that's one of those situations that is very difficult to manage. We've been told to not get very excited yet about the low numbers. There are all sorts of measures being put in place to increase the number of tests that we can do. The government is rolling out mobile testing, Community workers are going into the more rural areas to do the testing. So you're seeing a lot of action coming from government on that. But it's also been said that we haven't yet hit our we're not close to hitting our peak yet. It's everyone sort of taking it day by day, and yeah, we're going to see how this plays out.
We just got here one question that is, are you guys under martial law?
No, we aren't. What we have at the moment is our government called a national state of disaster. So we're not yet in state of emergency. And, you know, those two regulations are quite different. So national state of disaster, you still have a lot of your human rights. You still have a lot of the government can't do many things that they could then do under a state of emergency. So the military has come in as a supportive role to the police force, and I think that's been emphasized. State of emergency, those roles sort of reverse. But yes, so we're not under a state of emergency just yet, but we are operating under a state of national state of disaster, or under the Disaster Management Act.
Just a personal question now. How are you dealing with this situation, and how is your daily life changing?
Well, it's been quite it's taken quite a while to sort of get used to. I'm very lucky that I am able to do a lot of my work remotely, so my days are kept very busy with continuing work. A lot of people aren't that lucky, and you know, have to fill their days with other time, with other activities. I also don't have any children, which you know, some people might say that that's a good thing at the moment. So I am able to focus on work, but you know, the lack of social activity, the lack of those connections, it really takes getting used to. And I guess you sort of like start every day going, okay, this is today. Let's, you know, this is what I'm going to do. Let's get through the day. Aside from the sort of normal routine and normal day-to-day activity, it hasn't yet impacted me as much as it has other people. I think I'm quite fortunate like that.
And that's any like solidarity project that has been going on there?
Well, you know, I think we all feel that this is, even though we only had, well, we had our first infection on at the beginning of March, I think the 5th of March. So it's only been a couple of weeks, and I think people are really starting to only come to terms with what's happening. So I think we're starting to see community organizations coming together. I know that there's been a non-profit organization set up called COVID-19 People's Movement, where that is a chance for different communities and different organizations to come in and share resources and show that solidarity. What we are seeing is a lot of activity on social media. So those who do have access to the internet and have access to social media platforms are sharing their funny stories or their antics that they're getting up to being under lockdown. And so you are seeing this bit of solidarity on social media platforms. But we're also living in a country where we have 50, I think our internet access is only at about 56, 57%. So you have a huge population that doesn't have access to these platforms. So there again, it's quite a different lived experience. But yeah, I think the coming days we'll start seeing different ways of solidarity coming together.
And how are they doing with the schools? Are they having remote schools now, or?
We shut down our schools about a week before we went into official lockdown. But it's also, I think, fortunately coincided with our Easter holiday break. I think most of the schools would have been on holiday anyway over this period. But for the schools that weren't on holiday, we actually have our public broadcaster, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, has dedicated a channel for educational material. So that's one channel of
because then
additional.
everyone has access to the television.
Yeah, television and radio. So I think they're trying to use those channels for that. I know that, other broadcasters are also trying to push through more educational material that parents can use for children. But it is a big problem, because again, only those who have access to that can then access that content and that material. So we don't have a lot of sort of your e-learning platforms or digital teaching. I think people are trying to come up with creative ways of doing that, but it is a challenge. So we'll have to also just see how that plays out.
Any difference in reaction to the situation between black and white parts of the population? Do they match the socioeconomic class situation?
So yes and no. Where that does make a difference is where you've got a large majority of the black population living under live in your more informal settlements, in your more rural areas. You've got so that lived experience, and that reaction to what's going on, you've already got existing conflicts and existing political issues happening. So if you look at it from that context, you can say yes, but it's interestingly, and I think this has happened in many countries, people are starting to notice the fact that this virus doesn't doesn't matter whether you black, white, rich, poor, it's you can everyone's affected. But I think what's important to I think acknowledge is that often when you find yourself in a crisis, like many countries have, your existing societal issues or societal challenges get further exacerbated. So issues like gender-based violence, issues like access to food and water and food, water, and healthcare systems. All of your challenges are going to bubble and surface up. And in South Africa, where you've got your big majority of your population in informal settlements and in rural areas, and that being majority black population, you're going to get those dynamics playing out as well. So I think that although people are trying to look past it, you can't ignore the racial issues. And I mean, we're notorious for coming up with or we often attach race to a lot of our challenges, and you are seeing that play out here. But I think we are trying to to deal with it, I guess.
Thank you very much, Thandi.
Okay, great.
Have a nice night.